Welcome back, folks. A little bit of a different video today. I have kind of promised myself that at some point I would make a video about the Ioniq 5, a genuine, honest review based on 3 years of ownership, but I only really wanted to do it if I was selling the car and getting rid of it, which, spoiler alert, I am. But when we were deliberating buying this car like 3 years ago, there was very little on the internet in terms of reviews that hadn't been either kind of sponsored, or there were maybe press cars, or there was maybe something in it for the person doing the review, like they couldn't say anything negative about the car and stuff like that, or they had to certainly be careful. So today's going to be a little bit different. This is going to be based on actual ownership. 3 years of ownership, no holes barred, and by the end of this video I'm going to tell you, well, what we paid for it and what we're getting for it when we're selling it. And it is unbelievable. You will not believe how much this is depreciated. I can't even bring myself to think about it, but you know, I guess we were kind of guinea pigs at the time that this car more or less came out-ish. And I guess at the end of all this, I want to tell you not only all the problems we've had and a lot of the good points as well, but would we buy another one? So to give you a little bit of background, we did buy this as a company vehicle. We didn't buy it privately. There were kind of various tax incentives, not just on the company side, but obviously like car tax and things like that, that did sway us down the EV route. But now we're kind of rethinking the whole thing, and hopefully once you've watched this that will make a little bit more sense. But the other thing is that there's a lot of things about this car that we really like, but then there's some other stupid niggly things, and I would love it if Hyundai watched this video and could maybe fix those things in future cars, because some of them are just stupid. Oh, and by the way, since I'm being completely honest here and I'm not trying to sell you this vehicle, I haven't even washed it. You're seeing like what it looks like after 3 years of ownership. The interior, you know, it's tidy-ish, but I haven't specially valeted the car just for this kind of overview. So do please excuse like the bird poo on the windows and all that sort of thing. Oh, and needless to say, I'm not going to be talking about what the car looks like or anything like that. If we didn't like what the car looked like, we wouldn't have bought it. We still think it looks absolutely awesome. So I'm going to start with some of the negatives, and then we'll get to the positives, and then I'll tell you after 3 years how much this is depreciated by. So to start off with, for whatever reason, I mean, this is an Ioniq 5 2022 Ultimate Edition, and for whatever reason we don't have electric door handles, and these door handles are ridiculous. Whenever a passenger gets into the car, they're kind of like pressing randomly, and eventually they work it out, and then you kind of have to like loop your hand under there and open it, and they're just stupid. Why they've decided to have door handles like that is just absolutely beyond me. Marginally better if they were electric, and I think they should have been electrically opening. I'm not entirely sure. It was something to do with like a parts shortage at the time, post-COVID or something like that. But having these with non-electric door handles, it's totally impractical. And then once you get into the car, you run into the second door-related issue, and that is, until you've actually used the car for a period of time, no one knows how to close the door. It's not obvious where the handle is, and everyone ends up coming and they pull this. And I bet over time these will end up getting damaged because people are basically closing the door like that. But the handle is actually here. That is the handle part of the door. It's fine once you know that, but as a passenger getting into the car for the first time, you can't see it. It's just not obvious where the door handle is, and you end up just doing that. And on the subject of doors, and Monroe Live I think has done a teardown of these doors, and there's a lot of stuff like this on the Ioniq which is just ridiculously over-engineered. I mean, we've got so many different materials here which looks fine, but it just means if anything gets damaged, it's going to be so expensive to fix. I mean, we've got like hard plastic here, we've got like a plastic covering over plastic here, like stuck on or something. Then we've got fabric here. Then we've got like kind of, well, I don't know what material that is, but it's got real stitching in it above, but it's some sort of plastic material, but it's cushioned, obviously, because you end up using that as a bit of an armrest. So all of that means a lot of expense if something gets damaged. And because of that, we've already got signs of wear and tear here, and this is just scuff marks from people's feet when we're getting, well, okay, my feet, when we're getting in and out of the car. And because this is kind of a weird, like, material, like, stuck on kind of surface onto here next to the speaker, I mean, that can't really be fixed. These aren't marks that'll rub out. Those marks are there forever. So just bear that in mind. Anything like this, where it's a vulnerable area where people's feet hit this when they're getting in and out of the car, it shouldn't have been made of a material like that. Why didn't they just use this hard plastic over here, and then any scuff marks could be rubbed out? But yeah, just stupid design. Oh, and we'll get onto the abysmal sound system in a minute, by the way. And then we'll get onto the topic of the interior in general, and specifically the entertainment system, the dash, whatever you want to call it. And oh man, there's so many things about this that annoy me, and it's just so badly designed. And please, Hyundai, watch this video. It's so easy to fix a lot of these problems. I would say at least 50% of these buttons and dials and switches and knobs.
We've all got our switches, lights, and knobs to deal with, Stryker. I mean, down here, there are literally hundreds and thousands of blinking, beeping, and flashing lights.
I would say at least 50% of these buttons and dials and switches and knobs could be just completely removed. They're absolutely pointless. The flappy paddles at the back of the steering wheel, these control your regen braking, so you can change it from 1, 2, and 3 and stuff like that. We always drive with it on level 3, although it's just been in for a service and I've just noticed that's been reset to level 1, which is interesting. And why isn't that doing anything now? But, oh man, right, let's kind of work our way from left to right. So much of this can be simplified. I mean, for a start, you've got all of these tactile buttons across the top here, but then all of these are kind of touch-sensitive buttons. So, for example, passenger temperature, you can do that. But a lot of these, you really want them to be tactile buttons because, for example, I might want to turn the heated rear window on while driving, and I don't particularly want to take my eyes off the road. So if it was a tactile button, I could vaguely work out where it is. But with like these touch sensitive buttons, I have to take my eyes off the road to work out that it's that button for the back. And I believe that does something for the front. It doesn't have a front heated window, by the way. It just has a kind of boost button to clear the screen. And by the way, I cannot fault the climate system. The climate control is exceptional. Probably the best climate control I've ever had in a car. It works really well, and with it being an EV, you don't have to wait for the engine to heat up before you can actually warm the car up. And you can do it remotely via the app as well. But don't get me started on the app. I could make another whole separate video about how badly designed the app is. Whoever is in charge of UI, UX, the overall experience of using all of these controls in real life, either you've never driven a car or your brain is just wired in a completely different way to normal people. Because, for example, we've got this like tuning weird kind of flippy knob thing here. In the entire 3 years we have owned the car, we have never ever used that. Who tunes a radio in on a regular basis? You just like put it on a channel and you select it and that's it. So that's completely pointless. We've got these two buttons here, which still to this day, I can't remember what they do. One of them I know is for the camera, and one of them is for like parking sensors. I guess, does that put a camera on? Yeah, so that puts a rear camera on, and that must be like your parking sensors. But it's not obvious what they do. This little star button in the middle, that's like a programmable button. You can program it up to do whatever you want. I do use that quite regularly. The media button, that's fine, turns the radio on. And then you've got nav and map. Why did nav and, say, like, I've accidentally gone into climate control. So to come out of that, how do I get back to where I was? I've got to then go on, there's no back button here. Surely there should be some sort of just take me back to where I was. No, I've got to go onto the home screen. And even that's not taking us back. Now that's taking us back-ish. So yeah, you've got a nav and a map button. that should be combined onto a single button. It's completely stupid. Then you've got the volume, that's fine, at least it's a proper tactile volume control. And then this bottom touch screen kind of section, honestly, I could make a video just about that. It's so annoying the way it's designed. It's just badly designed at the end of the day. A lot of these buttons, it would be much better if they were tactile buttons. For example, being able to turn the heating up and down, being able to select which part of the car is having air blown into it. So whether or not you want it on the window or like onto your feet or at your face or whatever. So many different options that you have to go through while taking your eyes off the road. It's just awful. And I haven't even started on the proper touchscreen interface yet. Oh my word. Before we do that, let's just talk about the steering wheel area in general, because this needs a full rethink. It's awful. Okay, you've got a drive mode button here to switch you between like sports mode and all that sort of thing. I do use it occasionally, but it doesn't need to be part of the steering wheel. I mean, that just makes things so complicated for the design of it and the expense of the vehicle and things like that. You could easily have a button down here or something to control what drive mode it's in, because it's very, very rare that you're going to change it. Occasionally, because it does have phenomenal acceleration, occasionally I might change it from normal to sports mode. I never ever drive it in eco mode. In 3 years I've never used that. We've always got it in normal mode, and for 99% of the time that's absolutely fine. Plenty of acceleration, really comfortable to drive, which we'll touch on that later on. But yeah, sometimes if you're pulling away at a roundabout quickly or something like that, or you've got like an awkward junction, it can be handy to put it into sports mode every now and then, but it doesn't need to be on the steering wheel. As I say, the flappy paddles are completely pointless. I'm really not a fan of the weird penis-shaped gear selector over here. You get used to it after a while, but it's not particularly intuitive. I don't know. It would need some thought. It just seems a bit of a weird place to put it. And then you get to this little area down here where you've got the parking brake thing, which I've never ever used. You can either push it or pull it, and to this day I haven't worked out why you would ever use that. You've also got this auto hold thing that I've to this day never used. You've got a thing to open the boot, and you've got a thing, I presume, to turn traction control off, and a thing for your headlights. So those three are fine, but yeah, I still don't know what that's for. And then you get to the buttons on the steering wheel here. Oh my word, what a mess. So, okay, you've got a thing to turn the volume up and down, and you've got a kind of memory button here, and you've got like a thing to answer the phone. You've got a mode button. What does that do? Okay, that's changing between media, like USB music and all that sort of thing. Fine. I don't actually want that on at the minute. And then over on this side, you've got all this stuff to control, like cruise control and various other things that you do need to use on a regular basis, because a lot of the things turn themselves on without telling you, and you need to be able to turn it off. And the most annoying single thing on this vehicle that does my head in is the lane assist being on by default. And you have to basically hold your finger on that button to turn it off. And the only indication that it's off is a little kind of greyed out symbol on the dash, which now that's completely disappeared, and I can't work out how to turn it back on without turning like auto drive on, basically. The auto drive actually works reasonably well sometimes, but yeah, I don't know if it's called auto drive. It's kind of where it steers itself all the time. But the active lane assist thing, where if you're drifting out of a lane, honestly, the car has nearly killed us on several occasions where it has aggressively turned us, because maybe, you know, you're taking a corner a little bit tight, you cut the corner a little bit, and you're turning a little bit, and then suddenly, because your lane assist has turned itself on and you don't realise, it aggressively turns you like to go back into the middle of your lane. And sometimes I guess that might be useful, but most of the time it's unbelievably dangerous, and that being turned on by default I think is just awful. Don't get me started on all the beeping, by the way.
Blinking and beeping and flashing, they're flashing.
Anyway, that neatly leads me on to talking about this screen and the entertainment system in general. This is so badly designed in terms of interface design. So for example, I was talking before about the fact that I wanted to turn off the lane assist being turned on by default. So let's try and do that. Let's go into the home screen. Where do I think it is? It's not there. Settings maybe? I don't know. Let's try vehicle. Drive mode maybe? Brake mode is normal. Nope. Okay, heads-up display. That's another thing, by the way. I love the heads-up display. My wife hates it. Why isn't there a button to turn it on and off? Instead, you've got to go through all these kind of menu options to turn it on and off, but that's another whole thing. And by the way, yes, you can have user profiles. The user profiles we found are so slow to switch between that we've just stopped using them. We just use one profile for myself and my wife. We've had many times where you're just waiting and waiting first thing in the morning for it to switch from one profile to another. Nah, completely unusable. So anyway, where were we? Vehicle, lane safety. Okay, here we go. So active lane safety assist is switched on by default, and you can turn it off on the steering wheel. But even if I turn that off now, okay, it's going to prove me wrong. And I'll just go to home. I'm going to turn the car off, and then I'm going to pretend that we've kind of gone away. Turn the car back on. And if you remember, we turned that lane safety assist off before. So I'm going to go into settings. What was it? Vehicle, forward safety, lane assist. It's turned itself back on. Am I going mad? I did turn that off. Why can't I just permanently switch that off? I don't want lane safety function switched on. Or maybe I only want it as a warning. I don't want it to actively steer me into oncoming traffic. I feel like the car's got a death wish out for us. So let's just, okay, we're on warning only. Back to the home screen. Turn the car off. Pretend we've gone away. And turn it back on. Back into settings, vehicle, forward safety, lane safety. Yeah, it's turned itself back on again. It's the most annoying thing, and I'm sure it never used to do that. It's only done that since some sort of random software update that we didn't even have a choice to decline, and now we're stuck with it always having active lane safety assist switched on. And as I say, it's not particularly obvious that it's turned on. It's basically this little kind of grey symbol here, and the only way to turn it off while driving that I know of is to hold your finger on this button here like that, and you'll see that little greyed out symbol turns itself off then. And then you're fine until you turn the vehicle off and park up, and then as soon as you come back and use the car again, it's turned itself back on. And as long as you remember to turn it off here before you set off, then everything's dandy. But most of the time you forget, and it's not until you're actually driving the vehicle and you're driving around a corner and it actively tries to steer you into a bush or something that you realise that the active assist has actually turned itself back on again. There are many, many other things about this. I mean, it's just so complicated. There's so many different options and different ways of getting into the same bit of information. Like, I mean, geez, welcome mirror, what's this? A whole set of options just to control your welcome mirrors on approach to the... What? Why do you need this level of control over a vehicle? Convenience, what's in that? Rear occupant alert, wireless charging system. Why would you not want that on? I just don't understand. Anyway, okay, maybe it should be in some like hidden away like specialist dev menu somewhere. But everything about this just seems so unnecessarily complicated. Sound system. Okay, let's just briefly talk about the sound system. I can't really like demonstrate it because I'll get done for copyright. All I can say is for a Bose system in a relatively high-end vehicle, I expected more. The only way I could get it to sound decent is basically with these EQ settings, but in all honesty, I was disappointed with the sound system. There is a sub, allegedly, but it's so hidden away, you barely hear the sub. For a Bose system, it's not great. What else can we get to in here? Climate. Yeah, as I say, the climate system is good. This model has aircon that comes out of the seats and heated seats and all that sort of thing. Again, how expensive is that going to be to fix if it goes wrong? But yeah, as I say, in general, the climate control is decent, but my big gripe here is just the design of this interface. Hyundai needs to get someone in who really understands UI design and just redo all of this from scratch. It's just awful. The area behind the steering wheel as well, it's not great. There's a lot of it, like if I hold the camera at my kind of head height, that's more or less what I'm seeing. So there's a lot of it that I'm not really able to see properly. And again, it becomes a little bit distracting. Not to mention the fact that it's just not particularly intuitive. Like, why have I got this random car sitting between two lines in the middle? Why not move something into the middle here, like my speed or the battery level or something like that, in a much more prominent location, as opposed to the speed being off to the side here? There's certainly ways and means that this could be done better. I mean, when you're using the sat-nav, various things turn up in the middle there as well. But there has been situations where you're using the navigation and you end up with like 3 or 4 maps on the screen at the same time. It'll do sometimes like a weird split screen thing where you end up with like 2 maps here, and then like you end up with turn directions in the middle and things pop up as well. It just becomes really messy. Oh, and don't get me started on the amount of times that terms and conditions pop up on here that you have to either like decline, or I don't know if you even can decline them. I think most of the time you've got to accept them, but it's so sluggish the way that it works, and you've got to like park the car up, and sometimes they'll pop up while driving. It's the most distracting thing, and man, terms and conditions on vehicles that you've already paid for. I know it's kind of first world problems, but there's no memory function on the seats to set it back to like the way you had it, or if you're swapping between 2 different drivers, that would kind of be nice. I think higher up models maybe can do that, but I mean, this is a relatively high spec vehicle to start with. I would have thought it would have come with that as standard. And there's no rear wiper, so the back window is always absolutely filthy. Can I whinge quickly about the beeps? Is that like being too picky? Everything beeps. So when you open the boot, it beeps. When you reverse, it beeps. And the thing is, in the middle of the day, who cares? But at 3 o'clock in the morning, that beep is quite loud, and I wish there was a way to turn it off. Oh, and while I'm round the back of the vehicle, I've heard various things about the fact that when you're slowing down using the regen braking, so in other words, you're not actually putting your foot on the brake, you're just taking your foot off the accelerator, but sometimes the brake lights don't come on. There's various videos on YouTube explaining that in a little bit more detail. I'm not going to go into it here. It's never really caused a problem for us. No one's like driven into the back of us, but I can see that being a problem. So if you've ever got an EV in front of you that's slowing down and you're wondering why the brake lights aren't coming on, it's probably because they're using regen braking. I do feel I also need to warn you a little bit about the back seats, because we found this annoying at times. Basically, once again, it's just ridiculously over-engineered. I mean, you can move the entire seat backwards and forwards independently, which just seems like, okay, fine. You can also obviously flip the seat forward, but in order to do that, so it's a one-handed operation to flip it forwards, but it's absolutely a two-handed operation to put it back, because otherwise it gets kind of jammed in that position there. So if you're holding something and the seat was kind of in the forward position like that, it's most of the time, I'm sure on other cars, there's a button at the top and you hold that button down. So here, what you've got to do is release it here, and then it'll come up to that point kind of there, but then it's locked, and then you've got to really put some force into like pushing it back, and then the seatbelt sometimes gets jammed. So I don't like the way that's been done. I don't like how it has to be a two-handed operation to put the seat back up if you've had the seat down But again, perhaps I'm being picky. Oh look, it's beeping again. Again, Munro Live did a fantastic video about the over-engineering of this center console. It is so ridiculously complicated, or like unnecessarily complicated, I should say. I would just suggest that you watch their video. Don't get us wrong, it's nice. I like the way that it's been designed, but it could be simplified in so many ways. I mean, generally, we've never moved it backwards or forwards. It just sits in kind of one position. Normally we have it quite, well, probably about there-ish, which is quite comfortable, I think. Or do I have it there? I don't know. Either way, watch Munro's video, it's great. It's beeping again, and beeping again.
And they're beeping. I can't stand it anymore. The blinking and beeping is flashing.
Let's talk about the boot space, because the boot space on paper is actually quite good, but the reality of it is that it's not so great, because basically, I mean, this, you can't put a bag like there because it'll hit the window when the boot closes. So there just seems to be a lot of space lost because of how high up this is. And there must have been a way that they could have designed this, because we've got all these like cubby holes and things under here. I mean, I don't know what that is in the middle there. Maybe it's something to do with the battery, whatever. But it would have been nice if it had been designed in such a way that at the front even, it was a little bit deeper. Otherwise, if you've got like relatively big bags, you've got to put them towards the back of the boot. Then this flappy bit gets in the road, so you've got to kind of pull that out the road and flap it up somehow. But if you don't have a spare hand and you've got like a big box or a big bag and you're trying to lift that up, that just gets in the road. And as I say, because generally you're having to put stuff towards the back here so that the window doesn't hit it when the boot shuts, it just all becomes a little bit awkward. That's all I can say. I guess the boot space is all right, and obviously you can fold the seats forward as well and get even more space. But are you going to get like a fridge in here or like a washing machine? I honestly don't know. It doesn't feel like you could. You could in a Fiesta, I think. Another thing that worries me quite a lot is long term, how much is this car going to cost to maintain? I mean, for example, these alloys, I mean, they're gorgeous, but man, we've really tried to be careful with them. We've still scuffed the odd one, but yeah, how expensive is it going to be to like repair those or replace them if they get damaged? We've had a lot of punctures for some reason, and every time we take the car in to get the punctures repaired, we are terrified in case we have to get the whole tyre replaced. We got quoted £500 for like. These are Michelin like Pilot Sport EV tyres. I have since had a look round and they don't seem to be as expensive. There seems to be other kind of aftermarket ones that you can have fitted, although as I say, the tyre spot that we went to said that they would only fit these and they were basically 500 quid each. And then we've also like accidentally damaged some of the trim on the bottom here, and yeah, for a new plastic panel to go onto there, 800 quid for that one bit of trim. So yeah, it just concerns me a little bit. You know, you've got, for example, you've got this material here, whatever it is. What happens if that gets damaged? That's then on the like actual bodywork material here. What happens if the lights fail? I mean, how much is it for one of these light clusters? Or if a couple of LEDs fail in it, how much is that going to be to get fixed? It just seems everything about it is going to be really expensive to maintain long term. And finally, the only other real negative I can think of is that the turning circle is terrible. It often feels really difficult to get it into tight parking spaces and things. I mean, it is a big car, but yeah, just bear that in mind. Beeping again. On the subject of making things unnecessarily complicated, and this is a real bugbear of mine, just in terms of like the manual and things that you get with it. So for example, we've got like the service record book, which is fine, and Hyundai for life, which is great. And then we've got probably the biggest car instruction manual I have ever seen. We've got a separate thing just for the navigation system. This is in like 400 different languages or something. So yeah, it's not quite as bad, but again, just how much wasted paper is in that. And then we've got like a vehicle to load power outlet quick reference guide. We've got like a rotary gear shift dial guidance thing. And then from time to time you get these periodic updates like this owner's manual supplement here that we've just got. And this is another 28 pages of guff just about the forward collision avoidance assist, FCA thing. Oh, I think that's just what it's about. I read a couple of pages of it and got bored. But who's going to read all that? Oh man, it just does my head in. So I think I've covered most of the negatives. I mean, there's obviously on top of that general negatives of EV ownership. I mean, the public charging infrastructure is an absolute joke. I've still got PTSD from the few long journeys that we've taken it on, and the chargers that we've managed to find have either been out of order or ridiculously expensive, or there's been a huge queue. Charging it at home is a no-brainer. It's absolutely amazing. It works flawlessly with Octopus's intelligent whatever I can't remember, but it automatically charges when the grid has excess supply, so it doesn't necessarily just have to charge through the night. It can charge at off-peak rate through the day as well, and it integrates fully with that and works absolutely perfectly. Really happy with home charging. Public charging is an absolute joke, and as such, if your life revolves around going on long journeys, I just cannot recommend an EV. It's just an absolute disaster in the UK, but presumably with time that'll get better. But on to the positives. The interior in general is very, very comfortable. Loads of like USB sockets everywhere, which is amazing. We've got like a 12 volt and a USB at the front there. We've also got 2 at the front, and I think we've got 2 at the back as well. So 5 USBs. I think there's even more, and it can do 240 volt as well. So if you want to plug your hairdryer in, you can. So if you want to go camping in an EV and have like power to your tent and run an extension out of your EV, that is a doable thing. Again, I think there's a video on the internet, I'll include a link down in the description, where someone ran their entire house off this particular car. So yeah, the battery capacity is generally amazing, as long as you're not doing like, I would say, anything above 150 miles and I start to break out in a bit of a cold sweat. Anyway, let me take you for a bit of a drive, because I'll just kind of have a chat while I'm driving. Let's actually pop a seatbelt on, and you'll get a better appreciation of why we fell in love with this car in the first place. Because I can genuinely say, hand on heart, and I've owned a lot of different cars over the years, this is the nicest car we have ever driven, just in terms of kind of general driver comfort and that sort of thing. The acceleration's phenomenal. Its road holding is absolutely amazing. It just feels so well planted. I mean, I don't want my camera to kind of fall off its tripod, but if I just kind of, I'm not even in sports mode. Let's pop it into sports mode temporarily. Make sure that it's relatively safe and there's no one coming. Yeah, the acceleration is just unnecessarily like good. It's insane. You can very, very quickly get from like 0 to 60. I can't remember the official figures. Obviously there's faster EVs out there, but I mean, this is a big, heavy kind of, would you call it an SUV? I wouldn't say there's anything particularly sporty or utility about it, but I guess it's in your SUV kind of bracket. But it is so comfortable to drive. And even now that we are planning on getting rid of this car, I fall in love with it every time I'm back behind the wheel. It's just a glorious vehicle in terms of how it holds the road. So, you know, if you are a fan of cars and you just like driving and you're not planning on doing ridiculously long trips everywhere, and you want an EV and you're happy to keep hold of it for a long time and avoid any kind of depreciation problems and that sort of thing, which I will get onto very, very shortly. My camera has fallen over. Then this could be the car for you. I mean, let me just kind of shut up for a bit and you can hear the actual kind of cabin noise and get a better appreciation of like the driving experience. It's just, honestly, it's glorious to drive. I have never got into this car and not wanted to drive it. Oh man, what a way to say goodbye to this car. I am gonna miss this Ioniq a lot. It's been such a fun car to own, and have we regretted buying it? I'll get back to that once I've told you about the depreciation. Oh man, if I was happy to just keep hold of this for the next maybe, 5 or 10 years, then I guess it would probably make a bit more financial sense. But it's so nice. I've just got a smile on my face every time I'm driving this car. It's just like so fun. Where on earth am I? Kirkley Cafe. So I guess in a strange kind of way, this video is a bit of a kind of a farewell to this car, because it is genuinely probably the stupidest and also probably the nicest car we've ever driven. And there is a market for kind of stupid but nice cars, I guess. And there's so many things that they could easily fix in terms of the UI, the active lane assist, and being able to actually turn that off permanently, and hopefully the car not aggressively trying to kill you on a regular basis. But just in terms of a car that is pleasant to drive, man, it ticks a lot of boxes. And by the way, this is just the 2-wheel drive version. Apparently the all-wheel drive version has like even better road holding than this. But honestly, man, as I say, I've driven some nice cars over the years, and this takes some beating. And by the way, all the time at the minute, I can feel the active lane assist. It's sometimes switching on, sometimes switching off. I have no idea whether it's on or off. I'm just gonna kind of leave it in the kind of standby mode at the minute, on the off chance that it does try to steer me into oncoming traffic, and you can see kind of what the problem is. But yeah, apart from that, man, and all the other things that I mentioned earlier, what a car. Oh, there we go. There was an active little twitch. Ah, we're at Ponteland. I know where we are. And a bike. You know what it is? A single vehicle hasn't been along here for the last like 10 minutes. Can I make it round there? I don't know. It's gonna be tight. Not a chance. We'll ignore the crazy user interface. We'll ignore how expensive it's going to be to maintain long term. We'll ignore all of the range anxiety and things that you get through general EV ownership, because yeah, that's just EVs and it's not really the car to blame. And the range on this car is actually, you know, pretty good in the scheme of things. But, oh man, okay. So, we bought this as a company car for £46,000 3 years ago. And we are trading it in tomorrow. We're not trading it in, we're selling it tomorrow for £18,200. So in 3 years, it's dropped from 46,000 to £18,200. And you know, if you're ever wondering, who are these crazy people who spend 46 grand on an EV that they know is going to depreciate? I mean, to be fair, at the time that we bought it, there was all sorts of, like, inflation was like through the roof. We thought, if anything, you know, maybe it might not go up in value, but inflation might help it, like, vaguely hold its value. We didn't see it depreciating like a rock. It's just unbelievable. But do cast your minds back to when inflation was just insane post-COVID. And yeah, we were the mugs daft enough to buy a brand new EV. But it had to be a brand new EV to qualify for the various kind of tax perks and things like that. So yeah, more fool us, I guess. And it also means that potentially, I mean, you could buy one of these now with pretty low mileage for about 20 grand. And as long as all those kind of problems that I mentioned to you don't bother you too much, it's a gorgeous car, absolutely gorgeous car. If you're just going to be kind of, I mean, don't get me wrong, if you're just going to be tootling about, it's too big to be tootling about. I would rather get like a little, like, I don't know, a little Nissan Leaf or something like that. And for long journeys, as I say, because of all of the range anxiety problems and things you've got with EVs in general, I wouldn't at the minute buy another EV. Other than, as I say, just for if you're happy to just tootle about locally, get a little EV, charge from home. You're never going to be ripped off by public charge stations charging you like £1 per kilowatt hour and things like that. 7.5p per kilowatt hour to charge from home. It's kind of a no-brainer. But the thing for us is that we just don't need this anymore. It's sitting on the drive doing nothing most of the time. I mean, we've had it 3 years and we've only done 15,000 miles, so we just can't justify the ongoing costs of keeping it, because it's now going to cost quite a lot in terms of not just company car tax, but road tax and various other things. General maintenance, we're past like the free servicing period. It's just had its first MOT, so we're going to be like lumbered with those costs every year. And for me, I just can't justify it sitting on the drive for 90% of the year, not getting used. And hopefully someone else can make use of it. Who knows? See, the long and short of it is, we just can't justify keeping hold of this car. You know, the self-driving works really well. As I say, the lane assist does my head in a little bit. And you know, I like my cars. I was a bit of a petrol head when I was younger, less so now. I kind of view it as more of a utility kind of to own a vehicle. I've kind of got the whole sports car thing out of my system to a degree. But genuinely, this Ioniq, with its weird UI and weird relentless beeping, man, I'm gonna miss this car. I'm gonna miss this a lot. If money was no object and we didn't want a Tesla for whatever reason, I would definitely consider buying one of these again. I would just really hope in the future that Hyundai sort all of these weird UI problems out, because generally, as a car, it is superb. It really is a lovely car, and after 3 years, I mean, yeah, it's cost us a lot of money in depreciation, don't get us wrong, But man, it's been a lot of fun driving over those 3 years. So folks, I hope you found that vaguely useful. Do add any of your own experiences down in the comments below. I'd love to hear if you've owned an Ioniq 5, what you think of it, what your experiences have been like. For now folks, as per usual, look after one another, be nice to each other. We shall see you next time. Tatty bye.